Hello, hello. Can you guys hear me? Is my mic on? I hope so. Oh God, I still got a sticker. Who are you, Esther? I could get new mics, so that's what I get. Anyway, hi guys. Happy new month. Happy Black History Month. How's it going? How are you? I am very excited for today's conversation. Very excited for this live. Hi, how's it going? What's going on, peeps? Oh, my people are on. Hey, um, I am very, very excited for this conversation. I'm very excited about this conversation. Been needed to be had. And actually, my guest is here. Before I have her hop on, I do want to first give a precursor to how I actually found her page. So, backstop. Actually, let me just invite her on. What am I doing? Let me invite her on. Don't be weird, Esther. Let me invite her on. Hold on. Cindy, can you hear me?
Yeah, you had me laughing there. You're like, Esther, what am I doing?
What am I doing? Let me just have you on. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna sit and talk about you and glorify you and all this stuff all in the background and not have you on.
Oh my gosh, you're so funny. Well, thanks for having me. Nice to meet
No.
you. I know we've been chatting a little bit over DMs, but it's nice to
Yeah,
to see you face to face. I guess the
it,
next best thing to in the flesh.
I know, right? I know. I am so glad that you were open to doing this. And didn't think I was like this crazy lady that all of a sudden reached out to you, one of your followers. I have been following you for a while. So I'll give you the skinny of what I was going to share with everybody. For my followers know, I have stage 4 endometriosis. I was diagnosed in 2009.
Hmm,
Um,
okay.
Stage 4, also adenomyosis, as well as fibroids and chocolate cysts and all the other fun stuff that comes with advanced endometriosis. Um, I am also on a fertility journey right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, since moving to Dubai almost a year ago, so this month last year, my husband and I have gone through 7 cycles of IVF, and I've been just kind of sharing the process, what I've been learning, what supplements I've been taking, just the experience in general. Um, Positives is I've found that over time, the quality of my eggs has actually improved, being like a 41-year-old
Mm,
female. Um,
amazing.
and I've just been sharing everything that I've been learning and trying to meet as many really cool people in this space, great doctors in this space. I got super obsessed with that recent Diary of a CEO podcast with 4 incredibly powerful women, focused on women's health in the industry. And fast forward, well, I should rewind because I got to your content way before I even saw that podcast. I've been following your content for a while. And the thing I appreciated about your journey is 3 things. Number one, you talk very specifically about endometriosis and the things that can surround it, right? So not
Mhm.
just endometriosis. Most people, especially those with either later stages or further infiltrated, have a lot more than just, endometriosis lesions itself. There's a lot of other things that are
Yeah.
caused that I appreciate. Number two, you take the approach of how can I heal this through nutrition? And
Mm.
how can I think about um, healing from endometriosis or even just living through it from a perspective of nutrition and from people who are wanting to have children, so going through
Mhm.
fertility. But the third thing that I really appreciate about your content is that you share your own journey as well. Like, you're not coming from it
Mm.
like, hey, I'm just studying you folks over there. Like, you're like,
Mm.
hey, look, I'm trying this stuff. Like, I'm going through my own, right? And so
Yeah.
to this crew. But I want to just thank you and appreciate you for being
Mm.
as vulnerable and transparent, but also bringing education and research to help us all heal together.
Yeah, my pleasure. And right back at you. I am so sorry to hear about your diagnosis and your fertility journey, but that sounds like it sounds like things are improving if your egg quality is getting better. That's incredible. It's rare to hear something like that
It's
happening, especially as we
very
get a
rare.
little bit older.
Yeah.
But that's a
Very.
great little like nugget of inspiration for people who are on their fertility journey, whether with or without an endometriosis diagnosis, because you so often hear from doctors, yeah, there's nothing you can do about your egg quality, there's nothing you can do about your AMH, which is absolutely untrue. I've seen time and time and time again clients, patients, just fellow endo warriors on these socials pages seeing improvements in their AMH and egg quality. So you're a beautiful testament to that, Esther. That's awesome.
Many thanks. Many thanks. Well, for
Mm,
I know your followers on here are going to know all the things about you and your background. I would love it if you could share a little bit about you.
sure.
Before you do you mind if we do a quick like fire round so we could like get to know each other a little bit?
Sure. Yeah.
I have
I don't know how fiery my responses are going to be, but sure.
we'll
Why
go with
not?
it. We'll go
That's
with it.
fun.
I used to do these on my podcast where we do like this versus that, just to like
Ah,
see
okay.
if
I love
they're
it.
yeah,
Yeah. And are you going to
fire round.
respond as well?
Pardon?
Are you going to respond as well?
I
Or is it?
will.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, let's do it together. I love
I
it.
will. Okay, so here's the first one. Early bedtime or late night wind down?
Early bedtime.
Yeah, me too. Me
Early
too.
bedtime. Yeah.
I'm like a
I
9:30 kind of
Okay,
girl.
you're a little earlier than me. I'm like 10:15. If I'm pushing it 10:30. I don't even know if that would be considered early, but if I go to bed any later than that, it's like I had a whole bottle of tequila to myself. I'll literally feel hungover the next morning. So that's your early 40s, mid 30s for you, I guess.
Facts, facts. I will say, like, I balance it. Like, I would say it's between, I'm probably about the same, about 9:30 to about 10:30. Any later, it's like, I know I'm gonna feel it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um, but I definitely, like, if I'm out of that window, I also have, especially sometimes when I travel and have to get over jet lag, if I get
Hmm.
outside that window, then I have this weird thing until like 2 a.m. where I can't go to sleep.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
I think that
oh,
that's expected. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that was the first one. Next one is daily walks versus scheduled workouts.
Ooh, I think I'm gonna go with scheduled workouts.
Ah, okay. So I've
Yeah.
always been a scheduled workout kind of girl for so many years, but now I'm on this daily walk thing. I gotta be honest.
I don't know why I answered the way that I did. Right now, okay, just so right now in my personal life, I'm trying to do a jog every other day and then a weighted
Okay.
workout every other day.
Oh yeah.
And so in my mind, I feel like I am scheduling those workouts and that's working for me. But I love a walk. It's just if I'm kind of like loosey goosey about it, I'll tend to not do it. If I'm like, okay, this
Yeah.
is the plan.
Yeah.
So I do think I do better with structure. I think that's just
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But
No.
I don't think there's a
I,
wrong answer there. I think either of those are good
yeah.
answers.
The thing for me that I last November I did a 30-day challenge of like a bunch of stuff, sleeping well, eating well, working out,
Oh,
and
amazing.
I added lifting weights in there because I knew I need to fill in. I didn't do it once.
Mm,
I
mm,
really struggled. Like I did everything else. I walked every day, but it was the going and the lifting weights that I really struggled with. And I think it's probably a thing for me now because I'm very much into I'm gonna have it stack it with my life. If it's a
mm.
separate additional thing, it's really hard for me to do. I don't know why.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
but I mean, the important takeaway message here is do what you can, even if it's like a 5 or 10 minute
Facts.
workout that you find on YouTube. But no, definitely, I think scheduled for me. I need that structure. Otherwise, otherwise, it's like chocolate covered almonds, TV, and then I'm happy. So
Facts.
yeah.
Speaking of food, are you a home cooked meals kind of gal or convenience with intention?
Oh, convenience with intention. 100%. I'm not even going to lie. I'm not even going to deny that. I will cook. I'm forced to cook. I have to. I can't rely on like healthier takeout always. But
Yeah.
one thing followers, friends, clients will hear me say time and time and time again is I'm a creature of convenience. I love it. If there's
Mm,
something that can simplify my life, I will lean into that option
I
for sure.
love that. I love that. Speaking of which, oh my God, I didn't even do this yet, and you gave me the perfect in. Speaking of convenience and simplifying your life, our sponsor for today's live is the Jeffrey app, and I'm going to put it in the chat. The Jeffrey app, we didn't get to chat about this actually. It's essentially like the anything app you can get to your door. You can get home cleaning there. You can outsource basically everything but love, and it comes to your house. Right now,
Wow.
we're only in Northern California, but we're going to be expanding soon.
Wow.
And our app is going to be coming out in, I think, the end of Q1. So hopefully
Cool.
we'll be able to get to the rest of the United States, but right now we're in Northern California.
Amazing. That's
Okay.
awesome. And cool.
No, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna, is that your app? Is that your business?
It is. Yeah, my
Wow,
husband and I.
amazing.
So, one of the things I found with having endometriosis and working in tech was that I would, go ham 3 out of 4 weeks of the month, and then 1 week a month,
Mm,
I'm on bed rest basically. And I
mhm,
didn't like make that public to anybody. No one in my like sphere, my
mm,
global teams didn't know. I didn't want there to ever be a thing that would hold me back
yeah.
in rising in my career. And so I got really good at literally outsourcing everything, but like literally
Mm,
outsourcing it. And my husband saw that and was like, first he would be like, "Why on earth? It's not like you have like 5 kids. It's just you." But then this is
yeah.
before we were together, obviously. But then when we finally got married and we're living together, he's like, "Oh, I get it. Now I understand."
Mhm,
And
yeah.
it crossed over with like making the system that I'd created available to more than just me, like just our
Yeah.
neighbors and like, you know, whatever. And then he's like, dude, I can just make you like a website. He made a website.
There you
More people on our street
go.
found out. More people in our little community found out. It went across the freeway. It went to other cities. And now we're like, okay, all right, we've heard you. We will build it
That
out.
is
So,
so cool. Good for you
yeah,
guys. Wishing you much success in that. That's
thank
awesome.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Okay, two more of these rapid fire, and then I want my crew to get to know you. Coffee or
Mhm.
matcha?
Matcha. I'm a
Yes.
matcha girl. Oh yes.
Okay.
I mean I love both and we have a very fancy espresso machine that I got my husband for his birthday, but matcha 100%. Had a matcha this morning. Matcha's life. Everybody who knows me knows I love matcha.
Love it.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Are you more of a coffee
I
gal?
am a coffee gal. I have been obsessed
Yeah.
with this mushroom coffee that I mix in my coffee. It's
Oh,
called
wow.
Ilva.
Interesting. Cool.
Um, so good. It's like it's a mushroom coffee. It's got a ton of like lion's mane, bunch of stuff in it.
Yeah.
It's so good, and it's like it feels like I'm having like a really bad drink with a bunch of like chocolate and sweets in it, but it's not. It's like really good for you. So,
Wow. That is so cool. What a great like combo. You know, this is a, sort of like a nice little segue into some like info, which I'm sure we'll get to, but um coffee does impact some of the clearance pathways for estrogen. And I have noticed when I go through these like particularly heavy on the coffee windows, I'll start to get like breakouts here. Like I'll start noticing like hair growth. And I also have a PCOS diagnosis too. So, and when I last tested my androgens, my testosterone was a bit on the higher side. So I do specifically notice when I'm in like a coffee kick window, those symptoms ramp up. And
wow.
so coffee is helpful because it does help with that preferred estrogen clearance pathway, but it can also push estrogen towards a more growth promoting inflammatory pathway. So it's just a little fun nugget of information about coffee. So I kind of cycle, you know,
Interesting.
but matcha's a constant.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm definitely on a coffee kick right now, like literally every day, plus adding now this like mushroom coffee. But I have been
Mm.
noticing breakouts like around
Oh,
here,
wow.
around the perimeter, and like T
Oh
zone
no. Okay. Well, maybe
area.
more of the mushroom stuff, less of the actual coffee. Maybe that's like a nice compromise. If
That
that's what's causing some of that.
if that's what causing
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, my last one for you. Morning focus time or evening productivity?
Oh, I can't, I'm not productive in the evening, only in the morning.
Same,
Yeah.
same,
Yeah,
same.
no.
Need like
I'm like a
my,
potato in the
my,
evening.
oh my gosh, same. I need like my morning crazy, which was such a blessing for us moving here because I get really slow mornings. Whereas California, you
Mm,
get everybody, every other time zone's been going already by the time California goes up. So
sure.
you're getting
Yeah.
up and running as opposed to like actually
Yeah.
getting beat work time. So
I hear you.
anyway, um, let's get to know you a bit. Maybe if you wouldn't mind giving a quick like intro, personally and professionally.
Sure. So I'm Cindy Dabrowska. I'm a fertility and endometriosis specialized dietitian. I also live with endometriosis myself. So I was symptomatic from my first ever period at 12 years old. I always tell this little story because I feel like it is a nice kind of segue into my business and my practice and my social platforms. But when I was doing my master's of applied nutrition degree, we had an option to do a project on a chronic condition, and endometriosis wasn't on the list, but I pitched it to my professor. She's like, yeah, run with it. Great. And then something about that project and researching and diving in and sharing that information with my classmates really like triggered something in me. And I kind of in the back of my head told myself like, yeah, I'm going to start a business in this someday. Like I'm going to start a private practice in this area someday. And then when COVID hit, I was working in a family health team, but in the background, I kind of started dabbling in socials and creating a platform and like just kind of getting a little bit more active. And that's how Endo Fertility Dietitian was born. And oh gosh, since then, I mean, what is that now? Like 7, 8 years. Since then, it's just taken off. It's just been absolutely incredible, and I'm so honored to support women in improving their symptoms, you know, supporting their fertility journeys, and I just say it's like God's work through me, really, because I'm just a little tool in the toolbox. But yeah, it's been incredibly rewarding, and yeah, and now we're like on YouTube, and we've done
Love
lots of
it.
awesome things in this space, and yeah, so that's the short version of my story.
I love that. I love that. I love,
Yeah.
like I mentioned when we when we opened, the thing I appreciate about your story is you're not just studying it, it's like you're living it and you're wanting to solve it for yourself as well as for others, which is like
Hmm.
so so dope. So so dope. Can we go
Yeah.
back to talking about nutrition and inflammation, if that's okay? So
Yeah.
as I'm like having a freaking coughing attack over here. Speaking of inflammation, um,
Hmm.
what are like what nutrition changes have you seen have like the biggest effect on inflammation, on estrogen levels? Like what have you seen have the biggest effect on systemic inflammation that endometriosis has in
Okay, so
nutrition?
that's yeah, that's like a much bigger question, I think, than maybe we might think it is. So let me try and kind of simplify this a little bit. Um, so many things play into inflammation with endometriosis, right? You have your inflammation that stems from just the endometriosis lesions themselves, right? We know that they produce inflammatory chemicals. We know that they produce growth factors. We know that they, you know, produce their own source of estrogen. So yes, there is a lot of inflammation that stems from the lesions themselves, but then there are a lot of other compounding sources of inflammation, right? So kind of the analogy I like to use with people is if you have a backpack full of books and then somebody hands you another like five thick textbooks, the weight of that is going to be so much heavier than just what you're carrying in your backpack, right? So if you're dealing with endometriosis and then on top of that, you're also dealing with high testosterone, or you're dealing with constipation, or you're dealing with a history with antibiotics, or you're dealing with insulin resistance or blood sugar dysregulation, or you're dealing with nutrient gaps, all of those things, or a high toxic load, for example, all of those things will compound on top of the endometriosis inflammation specifically. So, that being said, there are specific diet shifts I would make depending on what other compounding sources of inflammation apply to you. But if I
Mhm.
take a step back and talk just about endometriosis, the first thing I would start with here is not even what you're eating, but how you're eating. Okay, so this is a digestive health foundation. One of the most impactful shifts I see produce incredible results in my patient population is meal spacing and structure. So spacing your meals 3.5 to 4 hours apart. In
Oh,
cases where somebody has very like that are very hormone sensitive, sometimes I'll even suggest doing like a 14 to 16 hour gap between dinner and breakfast the next morning. I do recognize there is some like nuance there and caveats because some of us have blood sugar issues. We can't go that long without having something to eat. Maybe some of us are under eating. Many of us, actually, probably most of us are under eating, in which case going long gaps of time is probably not going to be very helpful physiologically. But anyway, I'll come back to that because I'm kind of going off on a side rant here. But how we're eating first and foremost, right? This is a really important digestive health foundation. So spacing your meals 3.5 to 4 hours apart. The reason for this, so there's a few things here. One is something called the migrating motor complex. So we have this peristaltic sweeping wave through the stomach and bowels. It's activated after 90 minutes of fasting. But when we have a larger meal, like something that's actually a little bit more complete, not just a fruit or, not just like a beef stick or something like that, it'll stop for a longer window of time, right? So it's around 3 hours, 3.5 hours. So that's why 3.5 to 4 hours is the sweet spot there. If we're constantly grazing, if we're constantly munching on food between those, the 3.5 to 4 hour gaps, then the MMC, the migrating motor complex, never really has a chance to spring into action. And this is a huge risk factor for things like bacterial overgrowth in the small bowel, bacterial overgrowth in the large bowel, yeast overgrowth, right? Other forms of digestive dysfunction. So this kind of takes me back to when I was talking about those compounding sources. We want to do everything we possibly can to support optimal digestive function. So 3.5 to 4 hours. The second kind of big reason for this is blood sugar balance, right? Assuming that you've had some kind of protein or some kind of a carbohydrate or starch with your meal, that's going to be broken down into sugar. The sugar is going to enter the bloodstream. And then depending on where that source is coming from, you might see a bigger, or how do I phrase this, like a bigger increase in your sugars, right? Or it'll be a little bit more steady depending again on where that source is coming from. We have some friends in the background. So we want the meals to be spaced, right? Because if you're having something with protein or a starch, and then an hour later you're having again something with like protein or starch, the sugars from that first meal, right, the carbohydrate from that first meal probably hasn't even fully exited your bloodstream at that point. So just imagine like a little jump, like a little mountain in your sugars, right? They kind of dip and then they start to come down. So instead of them dipping and coming down, now you're getting a double dip, right? And when we have a lot of sugar in the bloodstream, sugar is very abrasive. It can be very inflammatory. This is why people with uncontrolled diabetes can lose their sight, or they get tingling in the extremities, right? So I'm getting to some of the tips in just a second. Sorry, I just wanted to preface with these foundations. But yeah, so the way you're eating is just as important, if not more important than what you're eating. Okay, so meal spacing, and then structure would be protein, fat, and fiber ideally, right? That's like the bare minimum we want to be consuming with the meals. And this is partly because of the blood sugar piece, but also partly because of compounding nutrition, right? So the nutrients that we get in our fat sources might complement the nutrition that we get in our protein source, for example, like, or your fiber might complement what's in your protein source. So an example might be like the vitamin C in broccoli helping with the iron absorption in a piece of steak or like seafood or something like that, whichever source that we want to talk about here. Or if you're having citrus, like let's say you're having an orange with sunflower seeds, the vitamin C and the vitamin E and those two sources recycle each other, right? So that would be the reason for the structure, because we want that complementary nutrition helping you to get the absolute most out of your diet. So yeah, those are the two big things around how. So structure and spacing. There's a lot more I can say about that, but maybe we can come back to that another time. So some of the biggest things, just like taking a step back, like not looking at any like unique individual case, but some of the big things that I find really helpful for inflammation would be lots and lots of color in your plant foods. So I always recommend aiming for 3 or more colors from plants with every meal. So if you look at your breakfast and you have, let's say eggs with blueberries, raspberries, and pineapple, that would be three different colors coming from your fruit, right? So something like that. Or if you're doing a big colorful salad with some poultry for lunch, maybe you've got red cabbage in there, maybe you've got kale in there, and then maybe you've got some tomatoes, and that would be three different colors. So always aiming for those three different colors, because every single one of these plant foods has phytonutrients, and every single one of those colors has a different anti-inflammatory benefit for the body.
Oh,
Um, the next thing would be really leaning into those lean sources of protein or plant sources of protein. So instead of being heavy on like the lamb or the beef or um, pork, for example, we're leaning a little bit more towards poultry, turkey, seafood, or our plant sources like legumes, lentils, chickpeas, beans.
mm,
And there are lots of reasons for that. I mean, the big one with the animals is the saturated fat. So this is not me saying like across the board red meat is very unhealthy and bad for us. That's not the case. There's so much nuance to nutrition.
yeah.
These sources are very bioavailable. They give us a lot of nutrition. It's easily accessible by the body, but the reality is that these sources do contain saturated fats. And when we have too many of these saturated fats, they can be converted into something called arachidonic acid, and then that can increase the body's inflammatory load. So we get less of those saturated fats in our lean sources. And when we look at the plant sources, like especially legumes, I know that legumes are such a hated, maybe hated is a bit of a strong word to use, but so many people will say, I don't tolerate them well.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that, right? There are things
And
you
maybe
can
not
do to get
all,
your
because
bird.
when we're for people listening, they're like, "What the heck are legumes?" Essentially, beans, like any
Yeah,
kind of
lentils, chickpeas, or beans. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Are there any beans that aren't involved in aren't considered legumes? Like black beans, kidney beans, would those be considered?
Those all fall into the legume category. But what I will say in response to that question is I would start with the little ones first, because they tend to be the best tolerated by most people. So lentils or mung beans are generally quite well tolerated. But also keep in mind, so the reason that a lot of people struggle with these foods is also the reason that they're so health promoting, right? They contain all three types of fiber: soluble, insoluble, and resistant starch, which makes them a
Oh, wow.
truly a powerhouse food to be consuming with estrogen dominance or high inflammation. It makes them incredibly, incredibly beneficial for the gut. But you can the other thing is that there's a specific sugar in these that a lot of people struggle to break down, right? Like otherwise called a FODMAP, right? A fermentable sugar. So one thing you might consider if you're somebody who struggles with these is just supplementing like a Beano enzyme or trying something like FODzyme, which will give your body more of that enzyme to break down those sugars. That usually does the trick for most people. Um, but it's worth doing because these foods are incredibly, incredibly nutrient dense, and they're extremely high in fiber. Most of us are lacking fiber, and fiber is not only good for building up your gut, which, is a whole other topic of conversation, but also binding estrogen, because you mentioned, nutrition for estrogen dominance. So fiber is huge, right? Fiber is huge for that. And so leaning more into those sources. I mean, there's so much more I can say about this, but maybe I'll give you like a third one. And then if you want me to keep answering this question, I can give you more, or we can switch to another question.
Yeah.
But one that probably many viewers have heard before is the oily fish, right? Tuna, salmon, mackerel, sardines, anchovies, leaning a little bit more into the sources that aren't predatory sources like tuna or salmon, but more so like mackerel or sardines or anchovies or even oysters, because of the oily fish, the omega-3 content, right? Really,
Mhm.
really powerful. We have so much literature about omega-3s for inflammation, for immune support. And so it's totally fair if you're somebody who doesn't particularly like these foods. I would highly encourage that you supplement with a high EPA fish oil in that case. But that's just sort of an introduction into some of the nutrition. I'm definitely happy to give you more there. But those are some of the big things that I would be looking at.
Yeah. You an aha that went off as you were going through the different key things that are important was an experience I saw from my 1 year being here leaving San Francisco and moving to
Mm.
the UAE. I realized that after the 7 months of everything, 10 pounds. I lost like 10 pounds. I
Mm.
reduced my inflammation significantly. My
Mm,
symptoms reduced significantly. And I had a minute, I was like, wait, is it because I did all these IVF cycles?
mm,
Um, and my doctor was like, I don't know if I would put it towards that. But as you were going through each of these, I realized a lot of things that were happening that I didn't even catch up on. Number one,
mm,
the intervals of food. So
mm,
moving here and still servicing my businesses are US based businesses, but we're here in UAE time zone, which means everybody wakes up my evening. So I have a full
mm,
day where I can completely structure it without interrupt. Customers,
mm,
business calls, what have you, without interrupt. And so my structure of my meals sticks to about 3 or so hours. And by the way, I didn't answer
mm.
that question. I'm a home cooked girly because if you've met my husband, he's like a home cooked guy. So all three of
That's
our
totally
meals,
fair. Yeah.
um, and I enjoy it too because then I can really play with and control the nutrition as part of our diet as well, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
but I'm making all three of those meals and they're on a pretty structured schedule without interrupt. That's number one. Number
Hmm.
two, we're in the Middle East, so we have like some of the most halal food. There really isn't pork here. Um,
Mm,
or if there is, you'd have to go find it. And we have so much hummus, so much
mm.
hummus all the time.
Love that.
So, if you think about our intake of legumes, like we're having it so much more than we
Mm,
would at home. There's so many uh, restaurants and types of food. There's Turkish food, there's Lebanese food, that right that also build this into how they cook, and we're just enjoying it.
yeah.
And so that has made like a really huge difference. Not to mention already building in, healthy fats and fibers and um, protein into every meal, just because that's what I've had to do
Mm,
to survive. But I think the kinds of proteins, fats, and fibers, how they're prepared, how they're sourced, um,
yeah.
has been such a game changer here. And just hearing you talk about the structure around nutrition too makes so much sense as to why I've seen such a difference.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, it makes sense. If we can just figure out how to get some of my inflammation to go down so I'm not like coughing up a lung, that would be cool. But okay,
Mm,
so another question I have for you is this thing has come up here for me personally, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it in the community, is the balance with endometriosis, estrogen, and liver health.
hmm.
And like how the health of your liver affects estrogen
Estrogen
dominance
dominance.
or even just your hormone imbalance or balancing in general, and what
Mm-hmm.
effects that has on endometriosis. Can you talk a little bit about what the
Mm.
role of the liver is in all of this?
Yeah. Well, the answer to that question is pretty simple, right? Estrogen is eliminated in three steps, and two of those steps happen in the liver. So we refer to those two steps as phase one and phase two detoxification. So in the first phase, our estrogens, our estrone, estradiol, and estriol are converted into metabolites called 2-hydroxy, 4-hydroxy, and 16-hydroxy. So that would be considered the first step. And then in the second step, the 2-hydroxy, it has what we call a methyl group donated to it. So this comes from active B vitamins, B12, B6. It comes from choline, magnesium, things like that. And then that metabolite becomes water soluble. So before it becomes water soluble, it's kind of stuck in this form that can only be detoxed through things um, like glutathione conjugation, things like this. So at this point in the second step, it becomes water soluble, and now it can be excreted through stools, right? And that's like how the large majority of our hormone exits the body, right? So that's the third step, and that happens obviously in the gut. So that's the role there, right? Because if the liver is burdened, your body is going to struggle to eliminate estrogen through those first two steps, right? And if the first two steps are struggling, your body's going to struggle to get it through that third step. So that's the relationship there between the liver and estrogen. So in terms of some of the things that can burden the liver, that a lot of us, I think, with symptomatic endometriosis can relate to are like high doses of pain
Yeah,
medications,
that was going to be my next.
right?
But what do you do,
Yeah.
especially if been diagnosed, for me, I've been diagnosed since 2009. And so
Yeah.
I've been taking pretty heavy pain medication for so many years.
Yeah,
Um,
I hear you. I hear you.
right?
And you're not alone in that. I'm guilty of that too. And that's why like I try to be so realistic about endo because like I live it. I know what it's like. You're never
Mhm.
going to get any shame for me about taking medications because I would be essentially shaming myself because I do the same. But you know, that's a big sort of unfortunate like what's the word I'm looking for? Um I'm forgetting the word, but anyway, like a thing that kind of paradox. That's the word I was looking for, right? Where like, you know, it's the liver, when the liver is affected, it affects endo, you know, body wide because of that estrogen elimination piece. But then at the same time, you're kind of stuck taking these things that will affect the liver. High toxic load, which could be coming from, you know, things in your environment. It could be coming from your water. It could be hormones in your water. It could be endocrine disrupting chemicals in your environment. It could be in the cleaning or beauty products that you use. It could be amalgam fillings if you've ever had mercury amalgam fillings in your mouth. It could be coming
Mhm.
from your cooking methods. So this is a big thing I talk about too when you prepare your animal proteins specifically. So we're not talking about like a sheet pan of vegetables. We're talking about animal proteins specifically. When you prepare them using high heat, low moisture cooking methods like grilling, baking, frying, then we get more production of something called AGEs, advanced glycation end products. And these create a lot of DNA damage, inflammation. They can burden the liver. And so we want to lean a little bit more in towards those high moisture, low heat cooking methods like soups, stews, pressure cookers, slow cookers, poaching, things like that, steaming. So that's another thing that will create some like metabolic byproducts that can affect the liver. A big one that a lot of people don't realize is you know, mindful supplementation and mindful medication use. So we kind of talked about pain relieving medications, but there are other medications that will burden the liver. Again, another one of those paradoxes. So a lot of like a hormonal birth control, progestin onlys, gonadotropin releasing hormone analogs like Orlissa, all of those will affect the liver as well, right? So again, we see that paradox. And what I was getting to, sorry, before I kind of went off, I should have warned you, I tend to go off on tangents.
That's okay.
But is the mindful supplementation, right? So if you're supplementing high dose fat soluble vitamins, vitamin A, D, E, K, like it literally just like my mind, like I don't even know how to phrase this, but like my mind is literally like my mind is boggled, like blown when I hear patients coming to me and their doctors put them on 50,000 international units of vitamin D a week or something like wild like that. If
See,
that's
I'm
you,
literally on, yeah, I'm 50 a week, 50K a week.
yeah. Yeah, so that's a fat soluble vitamin, right? Your body cannot excrete that like a water soluble vitamin through your urine. And so there are big, big red flags with high dose supplementation of fat soluble vitamins. It will burden your liver, it will store in your tissues, right? And to me, it's like, I get that Western medicine is very like, it's reactive, it's not proactive, right? So it's like, oh, your vitamin D is low, let's like supplement a crap ton of
But
vitamin D. But really the root cause solution there is to try and figure out why is it that you're not absorbing a fat soluble vitamin? Is it something as simple as you're struggling to break down your fats? Like, is it just that simple? Excuse me. Like, are you seeing a lot of fat in your stools? Like, are your stools floating? Are they looking greasy? Or are they very like mushy, hard to wipe clean? Like, these are physical signs that something
whoa,
is off
whoa,
with your digestion.
we must stop. No, 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 no. We can't go past that. You can see based on your stool how you absorb vitamin. Like, walk me through that. If your stool looks like X, what does it mean? If your stool looks like Y, what does it mean? What? This is new to me.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't be seeing. So, yeah, if you are seeing like greasy floating stools, that's typically not always. Like there could be many explanations for that, but a very typical cause of that would be a lot of fat getting into your stool because it's not being fully digested and absorbed. So,
Mm,
another reason for floating stools would be if there's just a lot of gas in the floating stool. But again, there are
mm,
probably symptoms that you're experiencing that can help you tease that apart. I mean, if you're not routinely very gassy, bloated, like passing gas out of either end. But you do get really nauseous when you have salmon, or you do get really nauseous when you have nuts or seeds or something higher fat. You can usually tease apart what's at the root of that.
Hmm.
So yes, you can. Sand colored or like pale colored stools is also consistent with either bile flow issues or fat malabsorption issues. But yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this the other day because I recently ran a workshop, and I was like thinking to myself, it might be cool to run a workshop on like just weird
Oh,
symptoms to look for and like what they mean. But yeah, like
yeah.
there's a long list of them for sure. Um, so yeah, if you're having to supplement because your levels are so low with like a normal dose of supplementation, like 4,000, 5,000 international units a day, then there's probably a fat malabsorption issue there. And there's probably something going on either with bile flow or lipase, which can be easily checked in the blood. Lipase is the enzyme that breaks down your fats. So that could be checked in the blood. But yeah, where were we? What were we talking
Well,
about?
another digging deeper. Sorry, I'll go back to the answer. Digging deeper into the poop. What's good poop? Like, if your poop looks like this is good.
So, like a normal kind of brown color, nothing too green, nothing light, sand color, nothing like that, and a smooth, soft log. So, you can actually look up on a Bristol stool chart. It will give you types 1 through 6. You want to aim for that type 4. So, smooth, soft log, no cracks in it, no lumpy logs, no pebbly type stools. It should be a normal brown color. And you shouldn't be seeing any undigested food in there. So with the exceptions of things like corn, sesame
Okay.
seeds, we'll see those pop up in the stool. But you shouldn't be seeing like skins of tomatoes or like little pieces of blueberry. Like you shouldn't be seeing that stuff in there. And they should
Mm,
not float. They should sink.
yeah.
And they shouldn't be staining the toilet bowl. They shouldn't be hard to wipe clean. So if you're using a lot of toilet paper, it's a very like sticky stool. That would be a sign of inflammation because the gut lining is a mucous membrane. So when it's inflamed, it will secrete that mucus, or when it's irritated, it will secrete the mucus. The mucus mixes with the stool and it comes out this like sticky, hard to wipe clean stool that could either stain the toilet bowl or require a lot of toilet paper to wipe clean. So that would be a normal stool. It shouldn't yeah, so it should stay formed, although if it sorry for the imagery, but if it comes out formed and then it kind of falls apart, that's not super concerning. But ideally, smooth, soft log, easy to pass, no straining. You're having a complete normal feeling bowel movement every day, no undigested food, no floating.
Wow. 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 We could have done a whole thing on just poop.
Yeah,
We
I
probably.
built I built a whole course around gut health because it's extremely important. I see that somebody wrote here, I'd be happy to have a bowel movement once a week. If this lovely friend of ours is not having a bowel movement every day and is also living with endometriosis, your life will literally change in terms of symptoms if you can produce a bowel movement every day, because that if you're not able to eliminate every day, you're going to get so much cycling of hormone waste back into your body, and that's all going to compound on top of that endo inflammation that we talked about earlier. So, gosh, my heart goes out to you. I would be like I would be so uncomfortable. I would be so
Oh
uncomfortable if
God.
I couldn't produce a stool every day. But yeah,
We have to get your course on gut health shared somehow. I've gone to your, so for anyone listening, sorry, I'm going to shameless plug you really quick. If you go to, if you go to Cindy's page, you can actually go to the top, her link in bio, and there's like a link in bio thing where there's a bunch of different courses. It's like, hey, this is what we're running now, but there's a bunch of other courses. Would we find that gut health course there in your link in bio?
Yeah, so they're not all courses. There's like links to freebies there. There's links to a discovery call. But yeah, the one that's endo belly to bombshell, that's the gut health course specifically. So I do believe it's
Got it.
linked under there, and I can send you that
Yep.
link directly if that would be helpful as well. But yeah, endo
Fantastic.
belly to bombshell, it's yeah, like gut health is so important with endo. And there's just so much information around gut health that like I had to build an entire course around this because there's no way I could have done like just a simple module on gut health in like a larger course. It's
Yeah.
so important.
Oh my gosh. Makes such a difference. Issa nurse, hopefully. can take full advantage of some of these conversations here and hopefully that course because yeah, you're absolutely right. Gut health is so important. So important. I'm going to go with one more question because I selfishly keep asking you more questions
No,
in
all
what we
good.
did. I don't want us to go over. Um, can we talk about supplements, like
Mhm.
helpful versus harmful ones? Since we started talking a little bit about like, I'm on what 50K um, um, for vitamin D every week. Um, I thought, oh, that's a great thing. I'm
Mm.
vitamin D deficient, so like maybe that's a great thing. Are there other supplements that are like commonly overused or underused that specifically for endometriosis and fertility that we should know about?
Yes. So I'll preface with the caveat of just like everybody's going to be a little bit different. So like some of these supplements could be absolutely necessary depending on the individual and depending on like their blood lab results. But I would say, so yeah, high dose fat soluble vitamins can be very, very dangerous. The other one that I meant to comment on previously with the previous question is iron. So don't
Mm.
misunderstand me. If you need iron, you should supplement iron. Absolutely. Like I've connected with so many women who have a ferritin of like 3. Like that's like infusion territory, right? Iron infusion territory. But it's not harmless to supplement iron when you don't need it, right? Iron is notorious for causing constipation, also with endometriosis. Iron oxidizes very quickly. So if you don't need it and you're supplementing all of this iron, it can cause a lot of DNA damage, a lot of inflammation in the body, and that can further contribute to the pain and inflammation that we experience with the condition. So we don't want to be supplementing high dose iron if it's not needed. If it is needed, then the Ferroshell form is a great form to consider. Definitely pairing that with vitamin C and supplementing every other day for best absorption. So there's that. And then I would say also DIM is one that a lot of people are like, whoa, because when you Google Endo, DIM is a supplement that often comes up, right? But DIM
Oh,
is not everybody's friend. So DIM, diindolylmethane, something like that is what it stands for. So it's what we get in our cruciferous vegetables. So we get indole 3 carbinol
oh,
and DIM in our cruciferous vegetables, but it's a very concentrated supplement. And don't get me wrong, DIM is extremely, extremely effective. It's like probably one of the most effective natural supplements out there for estrogen elimination. The problem with DIM though is the method of action is it takes the estrone, that type of estrogen. Well, it takes your estrogen period and it shuttles it very aggressively towards something called 2-hydroxy, which is one of the metabolites that
mm,
estrogen is made into at the level of the liver that we spoke about previously. And this is the preferred pathway for estrogen elimination. Okay, so we do want the bulk of our estrogen going down this pathway. The problem is it will aggressively shuttle estrogen to that 2-hydroxy. And remember from our previous conversation that there's a second step that happens at the level of the liver, right? That conversion to that water soluble metabolite, right? The methoxy. And so if you're aggressively shuttling to that 2-hydroxy metabolite, but the second step in estrogen clearance is not working effectively, like maybe only 20% of your estrogen is being methylated or 30% of your estrogen is being methylated, then you're essentially unknowingly creating a lot of this intermediary unstable 2-hydroxy metabolite. And that can cause you to feel a lot worse before you feel better, right? This also applies if you're constipated. So if you take DIM, let's assume, okay, even though, there's one other thing I want to say about this, but you're taking DIM and let's assume the liver part is functioning well, which just as a side note, if you're chronically constipated, will not be working well, right? Because liver is your detox organ. And if you're constipated,
yeah.
you're going to get a lot of cycling back into the body. But let's assume in this example that your liver detox is working well, but you're constipated. So now you're forcing a lot of this estrogen through the liver, but instead of it coming out of the body with the stools like it's supposed to, it just cycles back into the body. So
Um,
any
oh,
issues with clearing estrogen makes you a very poor candidate for something like DIM. So, and the other thing I wanted to say, just a quick little additional nugget of information here. So many of us with endometriosis have genetic variants that affect methylation, right? You probably have heard of MTHFR. There are
I,
other genetic variants. So, MTHFR, there are many different variants, but the worst one affects your methylation by about 60 to 70%, something like that. And so, and just for anybody who's unaware of what that is, so this particular gene codes for an enzyme that's responsible for converting synthetic folic acid into an active folate. And folate is one of the B vitamins needed for that second step in estrogen clearance at the level of the liver. So if your body's really struggling to like keep this methylation cycle going round and round because you have a very significant variant of that gene, then your methylation is going to be affected. So we have so many other things. Many of us are B vitamin deficient. That methylation cycle going round and round that's required for that second step in estrogen elimination is heavily, heavily reliant on B vitamins. So there's so many reasons why the large majority of women I work with don't methylate very well, right? And so that was a really long explanation as to why DIM is not the greatest supplement. It can be really helpful. I just want to put that out there. It can be really helpful. And I do use it in practice, but I only really use it in very select people who I know will tolerate it well. So that's another supplement. There are some like general supplements like kava kava, yeah, high doses of really any vitamin or mineral that can store in the liver. Copper and zinc should always be supplemented together because they're
oh,
antagonistic. So when
okay.
copper is high, it has the potential to drive zinc down. And if zinc is high, it has the potential to drive copper down. And in both of those scenarios, there are implications. Zinc is very important for thyroid hormone conversion. It's very important for the immune system. Copper is essential for converting iron from the ferrous to the ferric form, right? The storage form iron. And so, yeah, and the copper is also a very, very immune supportive mineral as well. So there's so many
Oh,
things that I can say about this, but yeah, those would be the big ones I would say. Trying to think if there's any other ones. Oh, synthetic. Oh, did I lose you there? Oh, I think I might have lost you. I don't know if you guys can still hear me. It looks like Esther's connection broke out.